Good evening. Welcome to Kenya News Update today. I'm your host, and tonight we're diving deep into a cultural phenomenon that's been making waves across the globe, from Nairobi to New York, and from the airwaves to the algorithms. It's a story about nostalgia, digital disruption, and the surprising power of a single DJ's mix to command global attention. We're talking about DJ IGNYTE's Turn Up at 2 Old Skul R&B mix. What began as a late-night radio segment on NTV Kenya's AM Live has exploded into a worldwide streaming event, sparking debates about cultural preservation, the economics of nostalgia, and the very nature of how we consume media in 2026. Tonight, we'll unpack this phenomenon from every angle. We have with us cultural analyst Dr. Amina Wanjiru, media economist Robert Kari, and joining us remotely from Los Angeles, music historian Professor Marcus Johnson. Let's begin with the basics. Dr. Wanjiru, what exactly is this Turn Up at 2 mix, and why has it captured such a massive, cross-generational audience? Dr. Wanjiru, thank you. It's a fascinating case study. DJ IGNYTE, a veteran Nairobi-based selector, hosts a segment every weekday at 2 p.m. on NTV's flagship morning show, AM Live. For years, it was a beloved local fixture, a 2-hour deep dive into classic R&B from the 90s and early 2000s. Think Boys I Men, Brandy, Aaliyah, Jodeci, SWV. The twist came about 8 months ago when he started live streaming the audio on a dedicated Telegram channel and archiving the mixes. The audience didn't just grow, it transformed. We saw engagement metrics skyrocket by over 300%. Suddenly, we had real-time comments from viewers in Lagos, London, Johannesburg, and Atlanta. The mix became a global water cooler moment, a synchronized listening event. It's not just music, it's a shared, scheduled emotional experience. Host a scheduled emotional experience. That's a powerful phrase. Robert Kari, let's talk numbers. This isn't just about feels, it's a serious business. What are we looking at in terms of scale and economic impact? Robert Kari, absolutely. The data is staggering. Let's break it down. First, the core broadcast on NTV Kenya reaches an estimated average live viewership of 1.2 million people within East Africa during that time slot. However, the digital simulcast and archives have created a secondary, global market. The dedicated Telegram channel now has 850,000 subscribers. Each archived mix, which is essentially a 2-hour audio file, averages 2.5 million plays in its first week. We're looking at a total cumulative listenership, across all platforms including podcast syndication, of approximately 15 million unique listeners per month for this single program. That rivals some of the biggest global podcasts. The monetization is indirect but significant. It drives immense traffic to NTV's digital properties, boosting ad revenue for their Business Redefined and other segments by an estimated 20%. Furthermore, it has triggered a measurable spike in streaming service plays for the featured artists. Our analysis shows a sustained 15 to 20% increase in streams for classic R&B catalogs on services like Spotify and Apple Music in regions where the mix is popular, directly following each broadcast. Host 15 million listeners a month for a show originating in Nairobi. That is a monumental figure. Professor Johnson, from your vantage point in Los Angeles, the epicenter of the global music industry, what does this tell us about the current cultural moment? Why this music and why now? Professor Johnson, it speaks to a profound hunger for curation and context in an age of overwhelming choice. Algorithms on streaming platforms are brilliant at suggesting what you might like next based on what you've already heard, but they're terrible at storytelling. DJ IGNYTE provides a narrative. He doesn't just play No Diggity. He might preface it with the story of Teddy Riley's New Jack Swing, segue into a related track from Blackstreet, and then contrast it with the smoother, soulful vibe of a Luther Vandross ballad from the same era. He's teaching as he's playing. For a global audience, many of whom are too young to have experienced this music the first time around, it's an education. For older listeners, it's a powerfully evocative time capsule. In a world that feels increasingly fragmented and fast-paced, this 2-hour block is a scheduled slowdown, a turn, if you will, back to a perceived simpler time. The title Turn Up at 2 is itself a brilliant piece of branding. It's a command and appointment. Host, you mentioned the word turn. That's interesting because our research pulled up a seemingly unrelated Wikipedia entry all about the concept of a turn in games, in sports, in dance. It's about rotation, change, transition. Is that what's happening here? A cultural turn back to the past? Dr. Wanjiru, precisely. It's a conscious pivot. In dance, a turn reorients your body, changes your perspective. This mix is a cultural reorientation. We're in 2026. The pace of technological and political change is dizzying. We have a new administration in the United States under President Trump, complex global tensions. There's a desire for emotional anchors. This music represents a specific era of optimism and particular sonic textures, rich harmonies, analog warmth, that stand in stark contrast to much of today's digitally constructed hip-hop and pop. It's a rejection, or at least a compliment, to the hyper-present. The act of collectively turning to listen at a specific time is a ritual that creates community in a digital space that often feels anonymous. Host, let's visualize that scale for a moment. We're talking about a local broadcast that has achieved global, digital native status. Robert, can you give us a more granular breakdown of where these listeners are coming from? Robert Kariuki, of course. Our latest geographic data, sourced from platform analytics and proxy metrics, paints a clear picture. The primary audience, about 40%, remains in Africa, with Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, and Ghana as the top markets. Another 35% is in North America, heavily concentrated in urban centers with large African diaspora communities. Europe accounts for 15%, and the remaining 10% is scattered across Asia, Australia, and South America. The demographic is equally telling. While the core is ages 28 to 45, those who grew up with this music, we're seeing a significant 25% of the audience under 25. They are the discovery generation. This isn't just nostalgia, it's heritage being passed on. Host, let's put that data on screen. We have a local Kenyan radio segment that now commands a global audience of 15 million monthly listeners, with a significant portion discovering this music for the first time. This raises questions about cultural ownership and the flow of culture. Dr. Wanjiru, as a Kenyan export celebrating primarily American music, is there any tension there? Dr. Wanjiru, it's a brilliant paradox. Kenya, and Africa broadly, has an incredibly vibrant and diverse music scene that is finally getting global recognition. Yet here, a Kenyan DJ is becoming a global authority on a classic American genre. I see it not as tension, but as a sophisticated form of cultural diplomacy and repositioning. It says that Nairobi is not just a consumer of global culture, but a critical node in its reinterpretation and redistribution. DJ IGNYTE's commentary, his Swahili interludes, his references to how these songs played in Nairobi clubs in the 90s, that frames the music through a specifically East African lens. He's claiming a seat at the table of global pop culture curation. It redefines what a premier thought leadership platform can be, to borrow a phrase from NTV's own Business Redefined branding. It's thought leadership in effective cultural terms. Host, that's a powerful point. It transitions us to the business model. Robert, this seems to fly in the face of conventional media wisdom. It's a long-form, appointment-based listen in an on-demand world. The content is not original creation but curation of decades-old music. How is this sustainable, and what lessons does it hold for other media? Robert Kariuki, it's sustainable precisely because it defies the conventional wisdom of chasing virality with short clips. It builds a habit, a ritual. The economic model is about loyalty and aggregated attention. While a single viral TikTok sound might get 50 million plays in a day, those listeners are fleeting. DJ IGNYTE's 15 million listeners are highly engaged for 2 hours. That's 30 million listener hours of attention per month. That is an incredibly valuable, stable asset. Advertisers for premium, brand-safe content crave that. The lesson is that depth and expertise can build a more defensible audience than breadth and novelty. It also highlights the untapped value in archival and legacy content when presented with fresh context. The music labels owning these R&B catalogs are essentially getting free, high-quality marketing that is driving real revenue. We estimate the mix generates an equivalent of about $2 million per month in induced streaming revenue for those rights holders. Host, $2 million a month in induced revenue. That is a staggering indirect economic impact from a single curation show. Professor Johnson, from the artist's perspective, this must be a welcome renaissance. Professor Johnson, without a doubt. For artists from that era whose radio play has dwindled, this is a lifeline. It introduces them to new, younger fans who then explore their full albums, not just the one hit algorithmically suggested to them. We've seen social media followings for artists like Drew Hill or Faith Evans grow noticeably. There's also a fascinating feedback loop. Because the show is so popular, contemporary artists are now making music that consciously references that R&B sound, knowing there's a ready-made, highly engaged audience for it on platforms like this. So DJ IGNYTE isn't just preserving the past, he's influencing the sound of the present. Host, let's address the elephant in the room. Our research also surfaced a stark, unrelated headline from a Telegram news channel. Grenade explosion injures 6 in France. In a world filled with such urgent, often violent news, what is the role of a show like this? Is it escapism or something more? Dr. Wanjiru, it is absolutely a form of necessary escapism, but I'd call it resilience building. You cannot consume a steady diet of crisis without emotional and psychological toll. This scheduled, shared joy is a pressure valve. It's a communal deep breath. The consistency of it, 2 p.m., Monday through Friday, provides a rhythm, a predictability that is comforting amidst chaos. It's not ignoring the world's problems, it's fortifying the spirit to face them. In that sense, it performs a vital social function. It's the audio equivalent of a community gathering in a safe space. Host, a final question to all of you looking forward. Is this a flash in the pan, a nostalgic fad, or the blueprint for a new kind of global media? Robert, let's start with you. Robert Kari-uki, blueprint without a doubt. We're already seeing imitators and variations. 80s synth pop mixes from Stockholm, classic dancehall mixes from Kingston, all following this appointment listening, deep dive model. The technology of live streaming audio and community chat has finally caught up to the desire for shared, real-time experience. The metrics prove the model works. The key is authentic, deep expertise. You can't algorithmically generate this level of curation. Professor Johnson, I agree. The genie is out of the bottle. Audiences have tasted what it's like to be guided by a human expert with a point of view, rather than a passive playlist. This model will expand. I predict we'll see similar shows for classic rock, jazz, even spoken word poetry. The turn is towards trusted human curators in every niche. Dr. Wanjiru, it's a sustainable blueprint because it's built on a fundamental human need, shared story and song. The medium is digital, but the impulse is ancient. As long as DJ IGNYTE maintains his authenticity and depth, and as long as people seek comfort and connection in music, this will endure. It's more than a mix. It's a global cultural institution born in Nairobi. Host, there you have it. From a 2 p.m. time slot on Kenyan television to a global audio phenomenon driving millions in economic value and providing a daily touchstone for 15 million people. DJ IGNYTE's Turn Up at 2 is more than a playlist. It's a case study in the power of curation, the enduring appeal of nostalgia, and the unexpected ways in which culture now flows across borders in the digital age. It represents a significant turn in how we listen together. Thank you to Dr. Amina Wanjiru, Robert Kari-uki, and Professor Marcus Johnson for your invaluable insights. That's all the time we have for tonight's deep dive. Subscribe to Kenya News Update today for more insightful analysis on the stories shaping our world. Good night.